Welcome to Chess Thoughts, the place where we explore ideas that challenge the way we think and see the world. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most influential books on human decision-making, Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This book is a fascinating exploration of how our minds work, why we make the choices we do, why we often rely on intuition instead of logic, and how our biases shape our perceptions of reality. It's a deep and thought-provoking read, but don't worry. I'll break down the key ideas, share reflections, and explore what we can learn from Kahneman's work. Remember that you can get the book through the link in the video description. At the heart of thinking, fast and slow, is the idea that we have two modes of thinking. System 1, fast thinking, intuitive, automatic, and effortless, operates without conscious control. It helps us make quick judgments, recognize faces, and react to danger. However, it's also prone to biases and errors because it relies on shortcuts. System 2, slow thinking, deliberate, logical, and effortful, used for complex problem solving, critical thinking, and deeper analysis. Requires more energy, which is why we often avoid using it unless necessary. This concept made me realize how often we rely on System 1 without even noticing. When we judge someone within seconds of meeting them or assume we know an answer before thinking it through, we're using fast thinking. But what if we slow down? How often do we make mistakes simply because we don't engage System 2 when we should? One of the most eye-opening aspects of the book is how it exposes our cognitive biases, systematic ways in which we deviate from rational decision-making. Here are a few major ones. The availability heuristic. We judge the likelihood of events based on how easily we can recall examples. For example, after hearing about a plane crash, we might believe flying is far more dangerous than it actually is, simply because the event is fresh in our minds. The anchoring effect. Our decisions are influenced by initial pieces of information. If someone asks whether Gandhi was older than 114 when he died, you might guess a higher number than if they asked whether he was older than 35, simply because the first number anchors your thinking. Loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing something much more intensely than the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. This explains why people are more motivated to avoid losses than to seek gains. Understanding these biases has helped me question my own decision-making. How often do we let first impressions dictate our opinions? How much do our fears influence our choices more than actual risks? Recognizing these biases doesn't eliminate them, but it gives us the power to counteract them. Kahneman, along with Amos Tversky, introduced prospect theory, which explains how people perceive risk and uncertainty. One of the biggest takeaways is that we don't see gains and losses equally. We'd rather avoid losing $100 than win $100, even though the amounts are the same. This has huge implications for everything from personal finance to business decisions to government policy. For example, people are more likely to buy a product labeled 90% fat-free than one labeled 10% fat, even though they mean the same thing. It made me wonder, How often do we let framing affect our choices? Do we avoid opportunities because we focus too much on the potential loss? And if we reframed our choices differently, will we make better decisions? Another powerful insight from the book is that we think we understand the world far better than we actually do. We create narratives to explain events, even when they're random. We believe we can predict the future with confidence, even when history shows we're terrible at it. Experts often overestimate their ability to make accurate predictions. Kahneman calls this the illusion of understanding. We want to believe the world is predictable and controllable, but reality is much more uncertain than we like to admit. This made me reflect on how I approach uncertainty. Do I accept that some things are unknowable, or do I cling to false confidence? Learning to embrace uncertainty might actually make us better thinkers, because it forces us to remain open-minded rather than jumping to conclusions. Another key idea from the book is the halo effect, the way our impression of one trait influences our overall judgment of a person or situation. For example, if we perceive someone as attractive, we may also assume they are intelligent or kind, even if we have no evidence for these traits. This effect extends to brands, leaders, and even countries. How often do we let one strong impression color our entire perspective? Have you ever judged someone positively or negatively based on a single characteristic? Recognizing this can help us see people and situations more objectively. So, how can we apply these insights to our everyday lives? Slow down your thinking. Before making important decisions, engage System 2. Take a step back, question your initial reaction, and consider alternative perspectives. Be aware of biases. Recognizing biases doesn't eliminate them, but it helps you think more critically. If something feels obvious, ask yourself, am I just relying on fast thinking? Reframe problems. Instead of seeing choices as risks, try to frame them in terms of opportunity. If you fear losing something, ask yourself, am I overweighing potential losses? Embrace uncertainty. The future is unpredictable. Instead of overconfidently making predictions, stay flexible and adaptable. Question first impressions. Be mindful of the halo effect. Don't let a single trait determine your entire judgment of a person, brand, or situation. Thinking Fast and Slow is more than just a book. It's a manual for better thinking. Kahneman's insights challenge us to question our instincts, recognize our limitations, and approach decision-making with greater awareness. If there's one message I'd leave you with, it's this: the way we think shapes the way we live. By understanding the quirks of our minds, We can make choices that are not just automatic but intentional. Have you read Thinking Fast and Slow? What insights stood out to you? Share your thoughts, and let's keep exploring the fascinating world of our human psychology together. That is it for today's episode. If you like this video, don't forget to share with someone, leave a comment, or subscribe for more insights on books and profound questions. As always, keep exploring and keep going.